For those who don't understand the thumbnail, go back and watch my first video I ever made because my last name is actually Kent. So you kind of get it now. Clark Kent, Andrew Kent, Superman, yeah? Justice League is directed by Zack Snyder and stars the likes of Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, and a plethora of other big stars. So in this film, Bruce Wayne wants to bring together a group of superhumans because he feels that there is a powerful threat on its way. And the group ultimately becomes the Justice League to go against Steppenwolf, who is after 3 boxes to gain ultimate power and conquer the world. So you guys know the track record for the DCEU. Many people are not a fan. They feel that Marvel is much better. In a way, I feel the DCEU has been given a bad rap. Man of Steel, I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was pretty good. I do agree Suicide Squad was a huge disappointment and very underwhelming, but Wonder Woman over the summer is definitely a great movie and one of my favorites of the year so far. So there were some things that I could say that I liked and disliked so far with the DCEU. Walking out of the theater, my opinion didn't really change on how I would think this movie would end for me and how I thought about it at the end of the day, because this one is fairly good. It's not great as expected, but it's certainly a fun movie. One of the big things I liked so far about the DCEU was the casting, and I felt the casting here was spot on. Ben Affleck reprising his role once again as Batman Bruce Wayne in this film. I thought he was great. He killed it once again. No complaints with Ben Affleck. Some people think he's a terrible Batman, but when I see his performance, I think he's really good and definitely owns the role. Gal Gadot returns as Wonder Woman. Thank God. I love her here once again. Her movie was fantastic and she was fantastic. And we also get plenty of new people in here. Ezra Miller as the Flash. This kid stole every scene he was in. I thought he was so funny. Definitely had a lot of great moments in this movie, especially in the scenes where he was in slow motion. I thought Ezra Miller was awesome as the Flash. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, I found his performance to be very lighthearted, but also thought it was awesome. And Ray Fisher as Cyborg, yeah, his character I didn't think was that great, but his performance overall I found was very strong. And then looking at Henry Cavill here once again as Superman, I thought, yeah, coming back once again, he is great. I think he is an awesome Superman. For those who are unaware of the events that take place at the end of Batman vs. Superman, something happens to Superman. No spoilers, obviously, but in this movie, they kind of go in a cool direction with Superman, and then all of a sudden, decide no longer to go in that direction and pull back for some reason. And I found that very strange. And it would have been really cool if they just decided to go with the original direction they had for Superman in this movie. And that's got to be one of my biggest problems with Justice League. Though there are many good performances and I feel like the casting here is spot on, I feel the characters are not that strong in this movie, especially with Cyborg and even Aquaman. I felt their characters were roughly weak. And the biggest reason for that is that Justice League clocks in at just about 2 hours long due to a mandate given by the studio, and therefore this movie feels very rushed. For just a 2-hour-long movie, this is a type of film that needs to be longer than that because there's so much going on with the characters. We have 3 new ones introduced here, as well as a whole new villain, and there's just not enough characterization given to some people in this movie, and I definitely would have liked to seen a lot more for certain characters. If you look at the Avengers, that universe had movies for all the superheroes in that movie before the Avengers came out, whereas for this one, most of the characters here are introduced in the film, so you can go ahead and say that all the characters kind of feel like Black Widow here. They don't have that much development. And the villain, Steppenwolf, he didn't really have much motivation. He was just another one of those villains that's very power-hungry, cliche, extremely strong and powerful, but he was an overall weak villain. I didn't really care about him at all. I didn't care if he were to conquer the world or if he were to be defeated in 5 seconds. He was just a weak villain. So when you get to the final battle of this movie, you're very much into it, but since this movie is only 2 hours long and feels rushed, by the time you get into the final battle, it's over before you know it. At one point, it almost led me to believe that I was watching a TV episode. That's how rushed and abrupt this movie felt, especially the last 30 minutes. One of the surprises for Justice League was that this film actually had a good amount of humor, especially with Aquaman and The Flash. I thought this movie had a lot of great humor. It all landed for me, surprisingly, as well. I actually found this movie funnier than Thor Ragnarok, which is crazy because that movie is a full-on comedy. But the jokes they use in this movie, I found them to be a little bit funnier and they landed more with me. And I think that was due to great performances given by Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa. And of course, it's really cool when you finally get to see these guys all come on screen and fight a huge battle against Steppenwolf and his army. It's something that DC fans have been waiting to see for a long time, and the set pieces for these action scenes are immaculate. I found all the action sequences in Justice League very fun, no dull points at all in those fights. And I think the final point I want to touch on with Justice League is the CGI and the sets they use. They just look so fake sometimes in this movie. You can easily tell that this is a fake green screen background, and it really boggles my mind why they don't use actual sets, why everything is CGI. It's very noticeable, especially early on in the scene with Batman. It's so obvious it's green screen and looks very fake. I don't understand why they can't just use real and practical sets instead of using CGI. The CGI looks so fake sometimes in this movie, which is disappointing. So all in all, I found Justice League to be a fun movie. I love the cast here. I found them all to give very strong performances, a lot of cool, fun action scenes, and an overall very good time. The movie is a bit short. It feels rushed. I think they could have used an extra half hour. You don't get enough character development and to know who these characters really are. The villain, Steppenwolf, he wasn't all that great here, and the CGI in some scenes, I just don't understand why they couldn't use real practical sets. But I do think this movie is certainly worth a watch and one that you guys will all enjoy. I'm going to give Justice League a 75%. I think a lot of people are already starting to hate on this movie, which I don't really understand. It's a fun film. I think it's better than Suicide Squad and Batman vs. Superman for sure, though it was a little bit underwhelming, but nonetheless, I think this is a good movie. Alright, so have you guys seen Justice League? If you have, let me know down below in the comment section what you thought of it and if you agree or disagree with my opinion. So as I said in my last video, I'm going home next week. I'm very excited for that because I'm going to be seeing plenty of movies and expect a lot of reviews to come out within the next week and a half. So get ready for many more reviews, guys. If you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter at SvenSoli and follow me on Snapchat at Sven Movies. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.